Hello and welcome to today's content of Tidus. Since he has been released and is a free unit, it's definitely there's going to be some people out there that want to know how to use him, or if they want to build him, or want to know how good he is. And since he is here, I'll talk mostly about his unit as a whole and mostly about the PvP aspects of how he can be used. Without further ado, let's go. For Tidus' main job is the Abe's Star Player. So here we see on the left side, critical pass is at 14 AP cost. It has a 35% extra chance of criticaling, and it is one of the longest range abilities that Tidus has. However, on his EX upgrade, he gets Sphere Shot, which increases the critical chance to basically you'll always crit, and it has a 10 AP cost, so it's very AP cost efficient. Moving down to his buffs, he has Cheer. Cheer increases attack and defense for his allies. This is very useful to have, especially when you have a bruiser comp or if you're just trying to increase the survivability to physical damage. Haste Aga is also always insanely good, especially if you land on all three of your members. If you correctly set up your AI so that Tidus can always get Haste Aga off on his team, you will have an insanely good advantage going in. Here we are at his other ability, which is Quick Hit. It is 24 AP cost, and it lowers their CT gauge, the enemy CT gauge, and increases your own agility by 25% for a turn. As you can see, the range is a little bit shorter, but it's fine. Once the EX upgrade happens, it turns to Quick Hit Plus. So what this does is increases the damage modifier to 200% instead of a max of 165%, and the AP cost goes down to 20. So as you can see, Tidus is not... Once he has his EX, he is much less AP reliant, needed to function as a unit. Moving down, on his EX upgrades only, when he gets his EX, I believe job level 25, he gets access to Jet Shot. The Jet Shot is kind of important because it decreases the defense by 30 for a turn, so this is a big defense down. And it's also decently hard hitting for 165%. So basically after a Jet Shot is used for the extra damage of defense down, he will probably use Quick Shot more often. And lastly is going to be his Limit Break, his Blitz Ace. The thing is, this is insanely good because not only is the damage modifier high, but it's also as a 4-hit chain. Well, it won't be 4-hit, but when you finish it, it'll be like 3 chain from the slash and the water element. So this is insanely good because chaining is always very strong to have, so this instantly puts a chain up to 3-3. So for the sub-job takeaways, we have Paladin, which arguably, in my opinion, will be the best for him, where he has Sentinel, Saintly Wall, and Taunting Blade. Taunting Blade gives him access to also hate generation, so he will be able to tank, it's possible. For his Abe's Star Player, sub-job, main job takeaway, he has access to Sleep Buster and Spiral Cut. So what Sleep Buster does is that if you crit, you have a 50% chance of landing to sleep for 3 turns. I'll have to specifically test if Faith matters at all, or if it's literally just a 50% chance if it crits. I'll have to check up on that, but for now that's what it is. It does require a critical hit, however. His Samurai sub-job has Illusion and Kongo. Illusion will definitely make Tidus able to do evasion comps, and it will help him because his EX raw stats gives him enough of an advantage to be a decent evasion unit. So here we see for Tidus, his resistances, there is nothing big or strong on his resistances, but there are also no big weaknesses. He may have a negative 10% to magic, but once his equipment comes out from the trial, which is his necklace, which gives 10% magic resist, that goes to 0. Similar to Slash, he only has 10% for Slash and Missile. It's not super high, but it's not a negative either. So basically his overall strength is that he's kind of like a jack of all trades in his resistances. He has 50% resistance to sleep and confusion, which are very useful, and he has a 10% resistance to stop, so this will help him. He can still be stopped, obviously, but it'll help a little bit out. For his master ability, he has the mono element type, and most importantly for himself, he has the defense penetration by 20%. For his passives, he has the Holy Knight's Protection, which is good for if he's tanking. Suncrest for if you want more DPS because he has Sphere Shot, which does guaranteed critical. You can make use of that critical damage on himself. Blade Soul's there for more damage as well, the highest attack percent for his passives. However, he gets also evasion, so he could be a little bit more evadey, but he does lose his defense. The niche and flex one I had to debate putting here because I didn't want to put nothing there, is because Tidus is already very fast. And the critical rate by 20% I feel like is very not large enough or like marginal enough to like cover over the other passive benefits you can get from the other ones, so that's why I put it specifically there. I believe Tidus has 67 agility by base, I believe, once he's fully maxed out, so having even more agility, he might get too far ahead of his own team without their backup, but if you do want that, it is a possible option. For his reaction abilities, he has Provoke, which is kinda good because it has a 50% chance of proccing, that's the first thing, and the range is really small however, but it does help. It inflicts Berserk. Paladin's Guard is always good because it cancels out, well no, it doesn't cancel, but it reduces physical damage taken. And Third Eye is good for evasion comps. Maybe he does get hit by something and he's built Evadey, he has a chance of increasing his evade even higher so he doesn't get hit as often. So, maybe people are waiting for this, but Tidus rating out of 10. Specifically for his EX launch release, and as of today, I would rate him a 9.5 out of 10. And the reasons why is that he has defense penetration on his master ability, and he has a 30 defense down debuff. This means people who have been ignoring resistances and just stacking up defense or only defense basically, Tidus can make quick work of them because he's able to basically penetrate through that pretty easily. He also has a very strong Modern Water team composition with Victora, Winter, and Ildira. That means he not only has a healer, he has a support slash DPS in the back, and then he's the one tanking, or he can also be chain DPSing with Victora as well. He has a base of 6 defense, and while boasting a very high agility, like I said before, at max he will have 67, which is very very high. He has CT lowering abilities, which allows for him to either get chains in, stack up chains, or even outpace the enemy, like hitting them twice in a row before they get a turn and they just die and they're not able to react against him. He also has very relevant stats at his EX to do some evading, especially with Blade Soul and Illusion. He has access to both of those as well. He's flexible in what he can do. He can, like I said earlier, he can tank with his Modern Water team comp if he wants to because he has Taunting Blade, and he has Saintly Wall to survive many types of physical damage. His flexibility, because he has access to all of these tools, that means he could be a DPS, he could be a tank, or he could be an evasion unit inside your evasion team comps. So overall, I would say he's a 9.5 out of 10. In terms of his future and longevity, I gave him a 9 out of 10 for now out of what we can see out in Japan, and here's why. He has very short range on most of his abilities. Outside of Taunting Blade and Sphere Shot, most of his abilities are either 3 tiles or 2 tiles away. He's limited to only slash types attacks. That means without slash penetration, he's going to be falling behind a little bit there if they stack up a lot of slash. He doesn't have a lot of weaknesses, like I said, in resistances, but he does also not have any big strengths in his resistances, so he's in no man's land pretty much, is what I have to say. Almost all his attacks are going to be mostly single target based. Obviously, outside of like Taunting Blade, which is AoE, almost all his relevant attacks are going to be single target. The reason why he's also still relevant, however, is that he also has Haste Aga, which whether or not he is used for damage, tanking, or evasion, Haste Aga being used at all is huge in terms of utility for your team. Also in the future, because UR Mont that we see from the JP server is fire, Tidus actually does very well against him because he's a water type and has relevant, at least decent resistances against UR Mont, so he's definitely a contender there. Obviously he'll need help on the magic portion when like UR Helena and stuff comes out, so it's something to think about. He'll be very good against UR Mont, but UR Helena he will have to think a little bit more defensively. Lastly, he has status ailments on his abilities, such as like a slow or a sleep. However, you have to crit for a chance for it to proc, and because outside of Sphere Shot, this ability itself, which has 100% crit rate, nothing else has 100% guarantee, so it's gonna be like it's an RNG on top of RNG, which I don't feel comfortable on how reliant that is. Lastly, for Tidus is a unit for TMR chasing. His boots, it gives HP, it gives 7 defense, it gives 5 agility, which is all actually decently relevant stats. The buff for it is increasing your crit rate by 30% and your crit damage by 30% for 3 turns for yourself only. The problem with this is that 30% does not guarantee 100%. So in the end, I don't feel this TMR is worth chasing for. It would be nice to have for his personal stats alone, however I do not believe it's very good for chasing, so I put it at a 7.5 at most for him, and it seems mostly to only be more relevant for Tidus himself. So here we are to fight as or against Tidus in his compositions. So fighting as Tidus, since he has access to Haste Daga and can choose between Taunting Blade and Saintly Wall or Illusion depending on his sub-job, it depends entirely on what you want your team to be functioning as. He is very flexible. Since Tidus has mostly shorter range on his hard-hitting abilities, giving him more movement or more turns will help him immensely. This means having Haste Daga itself in general is very good. Maybe if you have like a movement TMR, that could also help him get up in the front if you want him up there. But yeah, basically just getting him in there quickly is going to be the best bet to get the most use out of him. Since Tidus also focuses on CT down and defense down debuffs, he can definitely outpace slower builds or only defense oriented units, so Tidus is very good into those. Because Tidus does not have 100% hit abilities, but he is able to join evasion units due to his possible evasion stats and abilities, he can basically join evasions, but he cannot beat evasions consistently. As I said earlier, Tidus' only real weakness to damage types will mostly be magic related because he has Saintly Wall and decently good physical resists, so mostly magic will be his bane. Now if you're fighting against Tidus is mostly magic to magic damage without mitigation or like gear setup. So if you bring mages that can take physical damage such as Kilfi or Garvel, they can do well against him. Lightning units obviously will make quick work of Tidus. You should avoid them at all costs, especially because the lightning units that are UR can target his weaknesses very easily. So try not to attack lightning units in general. I know it's an element thing, people should know this already, but seriously, if you see one of the lightning units, you should really not be attacking those. So since Tidus is only slash damage, if you take slash resistance against him or even water resistance, it is a very effective way to reduce his damage. We should watch out for Tidus's Haste Daga and CT lowering abilities, because if your team is much slower or they don't have a lot of agility and they get hit by Tidus's CT lowering abilities or he has Haste Daga, you will get outpaced and he will kind of like run you over if you do not prepare for that. So in terms of the vision cards and such to bring as Tidus, I put Leviathan here instead of his own vision card because we don't have that out just yet. Obviously that will probably be the best for him in terms of offensive ability. And here, since he can only wear cloth armor, I put Smart Robe and his own necklace, which will be coming out during the trial. We should be getting trial in about 2 to 3 weeks, I believe. We'll have to see. Nothing has been announced for it yet, but it should be coming out. For his team comp, obviously you could use all water if you wanted, because since we got the mono water, not mono water, but mono element buffs on vision cards, it is much easier and more effective to stack up the water buffs basically. So that's why I put Xmas Victora, Glaciella, Ildira, Miranda, and Xmas Ramada. They're all here because they can all make use of it for him and with him. Now fighting against Tidus. Siren, as an Esper, has not only 25% slash resistance, but I believe she has also 15% water resistance. This means you are walling out Tidus almost entirely just with Siren alone. Now if you had like Plathelm or Solidus as a vision card, you can effectively make his damage irrelevant. Although he still has his other options of like Haste Daga and like helping his team out for that, or defense down, so it's something to consider. I put Orlando, Skahal, Nivlu, Kilfi, and Garvel out there because they all hit either his weaknesses or they have a good matchup against him due to their abilities, basically. And we arrived to the end of the video. As always, if you liked my unit review video, please like and subscribe, and until the next video, peace out.